Okay, in this video, I'm going to rearrange the information in the swatch so that I can create a better repeat. And I'm going to quickly just select the motifs inside and put them on their own layer so that I can get rid of the background. The first video showed you a little bit more detail of how to do this. So you can review that in the beginning of the first video if you want to. But I'm just doing it a little bit fast and dirty. Layer, new layer via cut. Trash the background. Make a bigger canvas size. And look at that, I forgot to change the scale and to change the resolution. So I would never work with this original photo size. So before I do this, I'm going to go back to image size. And I think what I did before was 200 DPI and 12 inches wide to bring it back to the proper sample size with a higher resolution for printing. So I'm going to change the canvas size to 30 inches by 30. I just like to give myself a lot of space so that I can use it as sort of a swatch pad. Immediately I'm going to get rid of anything in the image that doesn't look like it's going to make it into the artwork. Things like this that are super cut off are never going to be able to resolve them. They're always going to look like it was cut off at the edge. So I'm just going to go in here and kind of irregularly remove the excess. And same thing here. It's just two straight across. Just getting into shape. And this is actually really crucial, I have to say. If a motif is cut off, it either needs to be removed or fixed. So, like, I don't need that little blue dot. This feels like it could be fixed. And you'll notice I'm just selecting the things now, and then when I've finished selecting them, I'll hit delete on my keyboard and get rid of all of that information. If something needs to be extended, I can show you how to do that as well. Nothing here really needs to be extended, but I'll pretend. And deselect. And you can see it's looking pretty good. So saving often means that I don't have to start over. So I'm just going to save this as fix artwork 1, and I'll be able to go back to that if I make a mistake. The next thing I'm going to do is duplicate this. So I want to keep the original to go back to, and then I'm going to duplicate it. And this is the one where I'm going to start taking things apart. So if I wanted to extend this motif because I feel like it's too cut off, this is the perfect place for the zoom tool, or I'm sorry, the clone tool. So I click on the clone tool. You can check your brush size. You can check your opacity. I never change the opacity. You can check what layers you're working from. I'm just going to use the current layer. And I'm going to use the Option key and click in the area that I want to use, and then bring it over and start using it. Now you see with this very fuzzy, soft brush, I'm actually not getting a nice copy of it, so I would change that to a harder brush. And then let me start a new center. And I just do it little bit by little bit to make sure I'm not taking too much from any one area to get just the general effect of what's happening here. Not loving what's happening there, so I'm going to go back in with the lasso tool and see if I can mess that up a little bit. And I think that's probably enough to work with that. But if I really want to keep going, I could, take a section from somewhere else. Command J means copy onto its own layer. And then I could patch it in here, overlapping it, and then erasing it. So, whoops, a smaller eraser makes sense here, so that I'm kind of like hiding it within there. This is worth spending some time doing because it means you're not going to have to try and find fixes when you're doing the repeat. And then I would merge those together. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is just pull off sections of the red. And for every section of the red that I'm pulling off, I may have to correct something there as well. But my goal is to break this up. So first I'm going to take away this section, and you'll notice that I'm cutting right through the white because that's eventually all going to be one color. I'm just trying to get through in areas that feel like natural breaks. So I've taken this off, and then I would break it up even further into individual things. I'm using the shortcut on my keyboard for new layer via cut. So it takes a selection and pops it onto its own layer. And then, I don't know if that's too big. I can always break it down more, but I'm going to go over here and see if I can do a similar thing here. And I am working kind of quickly because I don't want the video to be an hour long, but you can zoom in and work more carefully, getting nice edges, or you can do a little patching afterwards. So this one is going to be really messy. I'm sure you would do a better job. Go in here and then take these apart. So there's a setting in Photoshop, if you don't know about it, called Auto Select Layer. It's up here. This is going to be really crucial for when I'm putting this back together because I don't actually know what layer things are on. I just want to be able to move them around quickly. So I'm going to hide this layer because I think I don't need it now, but I don't want to delete it. So I'm going to take the visibility off. And in this case, I'm basically going to try to put these back together in a way that feels less blocky. And it might mean just like rearranging them the way I'm doing, or it might mean rotating some, duplicating some, and creating, you know, a bigger layout. But for our purposes, I'm just going to show you how this looks, something like this. I can always edit away things that shouldn't be there or underlap instead of overlap. Again, I'm just trying to do this somewhat quickly so that I don't make a really long video and you get the idea. We'll see how this works out. So if I have something like this and decide that that's the layout feeling that I want to get, I would then merge all of those together. So I selected them all, and then I can say layer, merge layers, and then I have this new block of pattern that I can work with. And going back to how I did it in the last video, I would literally start in the corner, duplicate it. You can see if I overlap it here, I'm going to make the same problem I was just trying to fix by making this one big shape. So instead of overlapping it here, I'll move it down with a little space, and I can tell that in here, I'm going to need to either move things around a little bit or add more information. So this kind of repeat, you know, sometimes needs like tweaking, like you start seeing things that you don't like maybe these two shapes going in the exact same way don't really look good. But first I'm going to finish what I'm doing here so you can see the repeat unit. Again, the same way I did the last video. Using my floating selection and deleting that. I you know, if I was doing this in class, I'd be reminding you constantly to merge layers, because if you don't have the layers merged, then you end up picking up part of the repeat. So remember to merge the layers, and I'm going to clear the guides, and I'm going to just go with a straight repeat. Now it doesn't matter that this is getting cut off because I'm going to be cropping it anyway, but do you see what's going to happen if I do a straight repeat? I'm going to have this big empty area. So maybe this is the time for me to do right to a half drop instead, so I can get a little bit closer and still sort of problematic, it looks like. My guess is that I'm going to have to move something around to accommodate getting rid of that hole, but I'm going to finish the repeat first. So stick with the half drop, merge them together, use the floating corner technique to find the repeat. So I can crop it exactly where it ends. Oops, the other way. Exactly where it ends. And you can see there's going to be a huge hole in the center. We're going to just pick up another motif and put it in there. Image. Crop. Clear the guides. Make the canvas 200% by 200%. Remember, it's a half drop, so I'm gonna have to build it out as a half drop. And just follow that along. If you're distracted by the ground color, you can always fill the ground color with the color that you started with. But clearly the repeat isn't working because there's these big gaps, and stopping it here would kind of nullify what I was trying to do. So there's a few ways you can handle this, and one of them is to, save this and start over, obviously, and rearrange the reds in a different way. But you can also just go in here and fix the hole in one area and then step out the repeat again. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a motif from up here and put it on its own layer, and then rotate it and see if I can fit it in here. And then going to take a motif section from somewhere else, maybe over here, and bring it in over here, rotate it. I'm using the shortcut to rotate, which is Command T on the keyboard. Layer those together, and then maybe use that eraser trick, softer eraser, on here to make that into a new motif, and I can merge those two together. And if that seems too obvious that it's the same one, I could use the clone tool to change it a little bit so that it's not so obvious. I can continue to take things to build that out to make it less obvious. So I'm going to take something from here, and I'm going to bring it over here, rotate it a little bit, maybe even use the warp tool up here to like twist it into a slightly different shape. And then here, instead of using the eraser as a regular eraser, I'll change it so the opacity is lower so that those blend together a bit. You can see it's going to be a little bit more convincing there. And I start to bring in this, oops, I went too far, so I'm going to undo it. Bring in this fill into this area. I still have other things I can add into this to create a better repeat, but I'm just worried about the red first. So I'm going to merge those together, and I'm going to crop. Remember, I said you have to take the section that you fixed. So I'm going to take the section that I fixed, and oops, I selected it, and I'm going to step it out here, because if I don't do that, then I cannot crop the repeat. Okay, so I'm going to put that here. I'm going to make another copy of it. I'm going to put that here. You can zoom in if you want to make sure you're placing it. I'm, again, just working kind of fast to show you what I mean. So now I should be able to crop it, but it also reveals that this area could probably use something. So this is not as easy to do as just working with artwork that's resolved, and that's one of the reasons why picking a swatch that suggests a repeat is often easier than trying to fix the swatch. And so I'm going to just tweak this over so that it's a little bit more centered, erase this here, make sure I think the eraser should be totally full strength for the opacity, so I can do that. Maybe that butterfly is going to overlap a little, which I don't really mind. I think this is problematic, so I'm going to erase that away and leave a little bit of space so I'm not creating a new shape. Merge those together, and then again, I just want the center area. So I can copy and paste it, or because this is this actual center area, I could probably just crop the whole image, but I'm going to repeat the same thing that I did before. This goes here. Remember, I move some things around, so if it doesn't line up, don't be surprised. I'm going to merge it all down to a flat file so I can do this properly. This is the area that I fixed. This is the area that I want to copy. That includes the area that I fixed. And probably would have made more sense for me to just crop the actual repeat unit out, but there are a few different ways to do that. So your half drop here, and you know, it's your repeat, so you should start to recognize where your repeat boundaries are. No lie, it does get confusing. Okay, and then here we should be able to crop the repeat. So I've stepped it out a little bit. I can see how the repeat looks, and I can go to image, canvas size, and just say crop it to 50% by 50%. So instead of 200% where I filled it out 2 by 2, I'm doing 50% so I can crop it down. And that should be my repeat unit. So let's test it. I'm going to flatten everything again. I'm going to put it on its own layer. I'm going to make the canvas size 200% by 200%. Remember, oops, that shouldn't be there. Remember, a half drop contains 2 repeats, so this should, oh, I did something wrong. I hate it when the videos go sideways at the end because it makes it more confusing, but you can also see that sometimes you make a mistake. So let's find the repeat, and I'm going to make a corner here. I want to find the repeat within here. This is my upper left-hand corner. This over here should be the end of the repeat. It is. Let me zoom in to make sure I'm doing it properly. I'm going to end the repeat here. And then vertically, the repeat would end. I could have kept that floating selection, but make a new one. Vertically, the repeat would end here. You can see that. Just moving it into place. I'm going to bring the guide down. It's going to snap into place, but if you're not sure, you can always make a layer invisible to make sure you're putting the guide in the right place. And then this should be the repeat. Take the selection, image, crop, clear the guides. There's some cleaning up to do, but it looks pretty good. Select all, new layer via cut. Get rid of that old layer. Image, canvas size, 200%, just so that I can fill out it into the half drop so that you have the right equipment when you do your straight repeat. Merge that all together. Select it again. I always like to select it and put it on a new layer so it doesn't have any of that excess stuff when I change the canvas size. And then I'm actually going to make it 400% vertical so you can see a few repeats. And you can see it looks pretty good. And merge it together. Looks better. I mean, please, I could work on this all day. This seems too light compared to the other stuff, but it does give you a better sense of how to create a new layout. And this was one decision that I made, which was to like space them this way. I also didn't duplicate like the yellow flower, or the yellow butterfly looking thing. So it is really obvious that there's only one of them. If I want to create more variation, I could easily, add in, I'll work with the straight repeat here, add in copies of that to like distract the eye, changing the direction, maybe changing the scale a little bit, putting that in here, and creating like just a little bit of a sense of like, oh, I don't know where that thing happens, and it flutters a bit. So image, canvas size, I have to select it all, I forgot. Image, canvas size, and make that 400% again, and you can see the difference adding that other motif that is slightly shifting directions, and you start to see a little bit more movement with the yellow. So this is a lifelong journey developing repeats, but hopefully this gives you enough of a sense of how to work with your artwork. And again, a swatch that already feels like a pattern is going to be much easier to work with than a swatch where you have to develop the pattern. Okay.